Is Widow Jane Decadence better by itself or better in an old fashioned? Let's find out. What's going on, everybody? Nathan here with the Everyday Drinker, bringing you guys a brand new video. Now, you all know how much I love this specific bottle of bourbon right here. This is the Widow Jane Decadence that is finished in maple syrup. Now, the cool thing about the Widow Jane Decadence is that the maple syrup bottles that it's finished in is actually maple syrup finished in Widow Jane bourbon barrels. So the two companies have a little collaboration with each other, and I was able to get my hands on the company that ages the Widow Jane Decadence and ages their maple syrup in the Widow Jane bourbon barrels. And if you have your hands on a bottle of Widow Jane Decadence, you see this little card here, and it says, and it gives you a recipe for an old fashioned, which is 2.5 ounces of Widow Jane Decadence bourbon, a 1/4 ounce of Crown Maple bourbon barrel aged maple syrup, 2 dashes Angostura bitters, and 3 dashes of orange bitters. Build in a rocks glass with a big ice cube and garnish with a large sliced orange twist. Now we are going to taste the Widow Jane Decadence. We're going to do a little review on it because I, for some reason, haven't yet to do a review of this bottle for you, and I speak so highly of it. And then we are going to make a little old fashioned with it with the Crown bourbon barrel aged maple syrup to see if it is by far one of the better old fashions that I have had, and I have had a decent amount of old fashions in my time. So, without further ado, let's get into a review of this Widow Jane Decadence. So the initial nose on this, it's a very sweet nose, right? Because of that maple syrup, it does take a hold of this, but it doesn't make it overwhelmingly sweet on the nose. You still get those aspects of the sweet oak. You get a little bit of this charriness on there as well. It does smell like that it's been aged in wood and not just maple syrup barrels. It does have that age to it. It's 10 years old. I get a touch of an orange and a lemon peel coming out of this as well. It's citrusy, it's sweet. It's got that oak. I get a touch of this butteriness off of there. It really does smell so pleasant. Let's get to the palate. And that's where the sweetness of this comes through, right? Because that maple syrup, it's in that barrel. It seeps into this bourbon. It's going to be sweeter than a lot of your other traditional styles of bourbon. It almost reminds me of like a sweetness of a toasted barrel bourbon, but without that charry marshmallowiness. It's just an overall sweet bourbon. It's a dessert style bourbon for sure, but nonetheless, it is a fantastic pour. One of my favorites. I didn't pick up a second bottle, which I wish I did because I had seen it all over the place. So going into the fall, when this does get released again, I will most likely be snagging another bottle of this. But I know you all are here to see just how good of an old fashioned these two components can make. So without further ado, let's go get on our ingredients. Okay, so we have our ingredients for our Widow Jane Decadence Old Fashioned. As always, when you're making a cocktail, you want to start with your cheapest ingredients first, so that if you mess up, it's only a cheap mess up in the very beginning. So in our mixing glass here, we have our ice, and the first thing that we are going to add is 2 dashes of our Angostura bitters. Next up, it says 3 dashes of orange bitters. Right here, we have the Merchants Exchange orange bitters, so we're going to do 3 dashes of these. 1, 2, 3. Followed by a 1/4 ounce of the bourbon barrel aged Crown maple syrup. So, 1/4 ounce, and pour into your mixing glass. And finally, it says to add 2.5 ounces of your Widow Jane Decadence bourbon. We'll do our 1/2 ounce first, 1/2 ounce, and 2 ounces. We're going to stir until the outside of this glass is nice and chilled. All right, you're going to take your nice large rocks glass with a nice large clear ice mold, and you are going to pour right on over. Now, I unfortunately do not have an orange peel to express the oils over this. Garnishes are not a make-all, be-all for a cocktail. Cocktails in their own right, by themselves, are absolutely fantastic. Garnishes are just there to enhance some things if you wanted them. So, without further ado, let's just see how good this old fashioned is. Cheers, everybody. It's a pretty good cocktail. It is. It's orange forward because I usually, if I'm doing any style of other bitter rather than the Angostura bitters, I'm usually doing 3 dashes of the Angostura and 1 or 2 of the other style of bitter that I put in the cocktail. So to flip-flop the bitters is kind of a little bit different of a take on the cocktail for me. But it's actually with that 1/4 ounce of the syrup and 2.5 ounces of the bourbon, it's actually a very pleasant sip. It's really, really nice. It's not overly sweet. I enjoy that a lot. And look at that, nice clear ice. It really does make a cocktail a nice clear rock ball. Wow. That is fan-freaking-tastic. So, if you were wondering if the Widow Jane Decadence Old Fashioned is any good and you haven't made it yourself and you have a bottle of the Decadence, I recommend making it and seeing if it's any good for yourself. Until next time, this has been Nathan with the Everyday Drinker. Cheers.